The talks continued for most of that year. After each session, the IRA leaders would retire to Bernie's house where they were staying. She's kept photographs of days when she gave the IRA's chief of staff and his comrades bed and breakfast.
Everybody was so uptight that decided to sort of have a wee relaxation, and had a bit of music and a bit of singing, and just to let them come down from the talks. There's been Mr. Toomey. He's actually singing there, singing a wee song there. This one here is of Rory O'Brady with his paisley pyjamas on. It was a joke with me and him, but I was saying I must send this to Mr. Paisley and let him see how you actually do think about him every night. And he would laugh at that.
I can't remember that.
As the months went by, the IRA leaders were confident they were getting somewhere. And did you think the British were seriously considering withdrawal?
Oh, I think they were serious at the time. The only thing we couldn't get out of them was they wouldn't give us was a definite date.
By now, Unionists feared that the British were cooking up a backdoor deal with the IRA. Venting their anger, Loyalist paramilitaries embarked on an orgy of sectarian killing. Their highest-profile victims were members of one of Ireland's most popular groups, the Miami Show Band. They'd once been customers at Brendan's Chippy. By the end of 1975, the ceasefire was in tatters. Martin McGuinness had been released from jail, and Gerry Adams was still inside. Neither was tainted by the ceasefire. They were now poised to take over the leadership of the IRA. They believed that the talks had been a trap set by the British to cripple the IRA. They say that you and Rory O'Brady and others were conned by the British. Are they right to say that?
No, as I say, they were very wrong. They've been conned now, aren't they? And Gerry Adams been conned now. And Martin McGuinness. You don't believe that? But I tell you, there's a terrible lot of the people, including Provo grassroots, believe it. What have they got out of it? All they're getting is the crumbs from the table. That's all they're getting. They're getting what Paisley offers them, and that's all they'll get. And when it comes to the crunch, they'll go out on their ass.
By the late 1970s, a new battleground emerged, the Maze Prison. Republican prisoners were about to change the course of the conflict. Brendan's skills as mediator were to be tested to the full. In October 1980, 7 Republicans, including Raymond McCartney, went on hunger strike, demanding to be treated as political prisoners and allowed to wear their own clothes. The scene was set for an epic showdown between the hunger strikers and the new Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher.
There is no such thing as political murder, political bombing, or political violence. There is only criminal murder, criminal bombing, and criminal violence.
We had really the sides getting further and further apart. The IRA didn't want to know. They didn't want to be involved in anything, discussions or dialogue. And I saw this as a possibility of reopening negotiations.
Brendan was determined to do all that he could to resolve the crisis.
As usual, the telephone call came at 1 or 2 in the morning. We spent 2 or 3 hours discussing the situation in veiled language over the telephone. I produced a set of proposals as to how the matter might be managed with a formula, and went the following morning with it to the Northern Ireland office, and was eventually given approval to take a message to Northern Ireland.
In the utmost secrecy, Oatley flew to Belfast's Aldergrove Airport. He was carrying a 34-page document designed to end the strike.
And Michael appears, which is absolutely out of character, with a red carnation and a newspaper under his hand. And I recall saying to Michael, you know, Michael, it would have been easier to have met in the centre of Belfast on top of the Christmas tree. You know, it was crazy.
The person who came to see me, who was a Roman Catholic priest who was in touch with the hunger strikers, was obviously known to be in touch with hunger strikers and was clearly being tailed by a team of special branch officers. So we had the situation where our meeting took place in an entirely empty airport lounge with burly figures standing behind every pillar round about, which was quite grotesque and not exactly designed to keep the thing entirely discreet.
Oatley handed the document to Brendan, who passed it on to the waiting Father Maher. The priest then delivered it to the IRA representatives meeting in Belfast. Brendan's initiative paid off. With one of the hunger strikers close to death, the government had agreed to a compromise. But the prison authorities didn't honour the spirit of the deal, and a second strike was called, now led by the IRA's commanding officer in the maze, Bobby Sands.
It was a political strike, and Bobby Sands knew what he was doing. And basically, it was a strike to politicise, as Sands has said, the people of Ireland. And that's what he set out to do, and that's what happened.
The level and intensity that my father was at during the hunger strike, the amount of time he spent on the phone, the amount of meetings, people coming and going, it was so intense, and the country was building up at the same time on the outside, so the two were building up. Everything was building up. The two sides had squared up to each other.
The political dimension of the strike was underlined when Bobby Sands was elected to Westminster. But the Iron Lady remained adamant. No concessions, no political status.
Faced now with the failure of their discredited cause, the men of violence have chosen in recent months to play what may well be their last card.
And what were you saying?
I was saying this is completely crazy. We don't need it.
Were you saying that to the British?
I would say every hour of every day, all the time.
Bobby Sands died on the 66th day of his hunger strike. 9 other Republican prisoners were to follow him to the grave.
It was another turning point here. It was like another version of Bloody Sunday. That, you know, 100,000 people went to people's funerals. It just, again, was a rallying for people to say, look, we want to be treated fairly. But it was a very, very difficult time for everybody. And it was difficult here. It was difficult here.
Bobby Sands sent you what the IRA called a calm, a communication from inside the jail, written on a piece of toilet paper. What did that say?
It says, to you and yours, may I be permitted to say a last goodbye. If my passing is to mean anything, may it mean peace and freedom for you and all of yous. And may I be permitted to say how much we appreciate all the efforts you've done on our behalf.
After 10 Republican prisoners had died, the strike finally collapsed. Margaret Thatcher was now more determined than ever to beat the IRA, not talk to it.
Michael contacted me and said, get your long johns on. We went into a frozen period. Margaret Thatcher was absolutely determined there'd be no dialogue with terrorists.
The Ice Age was to endure for another bloody decade. But Brendan